The Dubai Clean Energy Strategy 2050 is part of the Emirates' vision to become one of the most sustainable cities in the world. Sustainability is also at the heart of the UAE's goal to drive economic growth through clean energy supply and usage. To drive this, collaboration between the government and the private sector is important to push innovation and sustainable solutions. Part of the push towards achieving net zero includes the transition of the shipping sector from fossil fuel-powered transport to energy-efficient designs and renewable energy technologies. To discuss this today, we are lucky enough to be joined by Faisal Ali Rashid, Senior Director, Demand-Side Management, Dubai Supreme Council of Energy. Saeed Abbar, CEO of AESG. And Ian Edwards, Area Manager, Middle East and Africa, DNV. Thank you all for joining us. May I start, Mr. Faisal? As a Senior Director at Dubai's Supreme Council of Energy, could you please tell us about Dubai's vision to drive economic growth through reliable, clean, efficient and secure energy?
Thank you very much. I'd like to start by thanking you for inviting me here. And in terms of our vision and where we're heading, I think we're looking, if we look at year 2050, we know the energy mix will be totally different. The fossil fuel share will be a lot less than what we have today in the energy mix. And also renewable energy will be positioned to basically drive the power generation maybe 50% by then. So in Dubai, as a Supreme Council of Energy, as a strategy owner of the energy management, I think we have already we've already taken a step to address the energy supply side by increasing the share of renewable energy, and already the projects are happening, are commissioned. By end of this year, we will reach around 12% renewable energy mix, and we're heading toward our target of reaching 25% by 2030 renewable, and also 75% by 2050. And on the other hand, also on the demand side management, we are also activating all our program, including electricity and water and also fuel reduction. There are many different programs have different owner. We have a reporting mechanism, we have MNV, measurement and verification, to measure our basically our saving every year. And also we have a governance structure in terms of intervention, to basically intervene on the different initiatives that we have on our map, whether to go faster, to accelerate, whether to go slower. So this is also part of our whole management. We have a committee, board committee, we have executive committee as well, to ensure that activations are happening on all sides. And this is a brief. I will also address any direct question if you have. Thank you.
Thank you. Saeed Abbar, you're a board member with the World Green Building Council and former chairman of the Emirates Green Building Council. How do you view UAE sustainability evolution?
Thank you very much. Look, I think the evolution of the last sort of 10, 15 years where I've been involved in that journey has been remarkable in the UAE. We've gone from a position where, UAE, like many countries in the region, maybe criticized globally for not pushing a lot of the sustainability agenda, to being in a position today where we're really leading the dialogue and moving it forward. And that's across the board when it's programs like Faisal talked about, when you talk about the sort of the national vision, policies, regulations across the transport sector, building sector, etc. We really are kind of leading on that. So I think that's been fantastic. But I think, like every country in the world at the moment, we're still a long way from where we need to be. We had the discussion earlier around the sort of the previous panel, about the need, an urgent need to get to sort of net zero, and the transformational changes we need to make to our economy, our economic models, our systems of how we get there. So I think the UAE now is definitely seen globally as a leader in sustainability and sustainable energy, and it's really capturing that position and taking that position of responsibility, and how do we now make transformational changes to make leaps forward to move towards net zero?
A crossroads for sure. Ian Edwards, decarbonisation of shipping is another key aspect. What are the opportunities and challenges for Dubai to implement this within the Emirate?
Yes, thank you, Noni. By shipping, of course, we mean the global trade of goods, products, the things we use in our homes, for example. And shipping sometimes gets bad press. But on the other hand, shipping is responsible for transportation of 90% of the world trade and emits only about 2% of global CO2 emissions. So in fact, shipping can be part of the solution for the future. But shipping in itself, of course, as an emitter of greenhouse gases is required to do something about it. Now, global shipping is governed by the International Maritime Organization, which is a UN body governing global shipping. And back in 2018, the UN implemented a strategy for greenhouse gas reduction, targeting 50% by 2050. Now, how to do that? That is the big question. Studies by DNV show that by 2050, around 30 to 40% of the global shipping energy requirement needs to be provided by carbon neutral fuels. Fuels that we think could be partly hydrogen, partly ammonia, which some of the other panelists have indicated. But the technology is not yet there. Fortunately, in the UAE, we have great leadership and initiative, and many of the companies are now looking at that, as I think we heard earlier. ADNOC, Abu Dhabi Ports, also looking at how to produce hydrogen, how to produce ammonia to fuel ships of the future. But this is a big challenge, and the technology is not yet available and not yet viable. I mean, this needs to be sustainable from the business perspective, as also other panelists have mentioned. In the interim period, there's going to be a transition. And the transition for most of the large ocean-going ships in the world is in the form of LNG fuel, a dual fuel solution where the ship has also fuel oil, but also has LNG as fuel on board. Some of the companies in the UAE are embracing this technology. It's a good alternative that gives around a 20% greenhouse gas reduction, 20% reduction of CO2, and gives you flexibility. It's a robust alternative that also you can feed into perhaps hydrogen mix in the LNG fuel. Synthetic LNG is also an option. So these are the kind of challenges that we're facing in the industry currently. But the IMO ambitions, the International Maritime Organization ambitions, are there. They're well aligned with the Paris Agreement of 1.5 degrees. And so the shipping is stepping up to the mark and aiming to do its bit to contribute to the goal of reducing carbon emissions.
Thank you. Faisal, in terms of energy efficiency and sustainability, how effective is Dubai's carbon reduction strategies?
Yeah, I think with respect to emission, there is a bigger picture within the activation emission. So we have the supply side, as I mentioned, the share of renewable energy increases. This is already basically reducing the emission, and we're calculating the emission as we are hitting, as we already hit our target of 2020, and then beyond 2020, 2025. On top of that, also we have the demand side management in terms of the 11 program that we have, making building more efficient through basically introducing more stringent code, which has already been introduced in 2014. And also we realized that there are 130,000 buildings in Dubai, existing buildings in Dubai, and we know that these buildings are inefficient, mostly inefficient, and the way to handle them is also to sort of introduce building retrofit program, which we have already done in 2016 through setting up contract models, through setting up also ESCO accreditation scheme, which we already have, and also through setting up market creation. So as we speak today, we have more than 25 approved ESCO doing work in the market. So we have already more than 10,000 building, around 10,000 building already retrofitted between government and private as well. And of course, the penetration of the district cooling is part of what we have. The mobility also, we already have a strategy to increase the penetration of hybrid and electric vehicle, even though it's going slowly. But I think the most important thing is to start. So in 2015, there were less than 500 green vehicles between hybrid and EV. And today, we're having more than 10,000. 3,000 plus EV, and then 7,000, around 7,000 hybrid. So I think slowly we are basically contributing to the emission reduction. And of course, we look at other technology in the future, which is the net zero energy building, something that could be accelerated in the future. Also the energy storage, also the lithium battery as well. We already have CSP as a renewable that offers storage as well. So we're keeping an eye open to basically accelerate further as we go.
Our time's rapidly running out. I'd like to get an answer from all of you on just one here, if possible. What do you all feel are the biggest hurdles in the race to net zero? Saeed?
Biggest hurdle is time. I think this journey to now with sustainability or any environmental movements has been incremental, step by step by step. We know that by 2030 we need to be really well on the road to that. We're already approaching 2022. I take the building sector, for example, which I'm involved in. We already know that from the Paris Agreement that by 2030 any new buildings we build have to be net zero carbon, because that's they're going to carry on operating for 50 years. We can't afford to have buildings that are emitting the same levels that they were before. So if you work back from 2030, the standard design construction process is about 5 years. So that gives us until about 2025. Any project we start from 2025 onwards, which is 3.5 years from now, needs to be net zero carbon. And are we there? We're on steps to get there, but it's the transformational leap, which I mentioned earlier, is that we really need to make. So biggest hurdle is time. The technology is there, the financial models are there, everything's there, but it's really getting that urgency across the sector.
Mindset?
Mindset, yeah. Mindset to rush, I would say. Having a mindset to move quickly.
Ian, biggest hurdles? Thank you.
Biggest hurdle, I think, we've already talked about technology, but, building on your point of mindset is competence. I think competence is the key here. And, we see examples today already, like from Ambassador Rosnes, of what Norway is doing. There's a great competence out there, and it's, companies like DNV that can really help the UAE to be a bridge to that technology and help build the competence of, the Emiratis, of the country here, to help them find the way in these sustainable solutions for the future.
Faisal, our biggest hurdle? Yeah, I think to be realistic, myself coming from the engineering and industrial background, I think our biggest hurdle is the harsh environment that we're in. We cannot compare ourselves with Europe and with maybe North America. So I think with respect to building, as my colleague Saeed said, I think there are many challenges. We need work of the designer, work of the architect, work of the supplier, work of the vendor also to basically ensure that buildings are more efficient in terms of insulation as well. And on top of that, I think the most important thing is next to making building more efficient, I think the storage aspect, which is the energy storage, the battery, lithium battery cost. I think as we speak today, is economically is not feasible basically to, it has a long payback period as well. On top of that, also, you need to clean the grid, to clean the supply side, to make more renewable energy in order to reach the close to net zero energy building. And also from mobility point of view, also to ensure that the electrification of vehicles are happening. I think we have a bigger challenge in terms of the diesel aspect and the trucking, where we cannot use EV, at least in the near future. So these are some of the challenges where it takes us maybe beyond 2030 to reach a zero economy.
It certainly seems like the challenges out there can't be underestimated, but thank goodness we have such strong leaders in the sector. Thank you all for your time today. We have Ian Edwards at the end, Area Manager, Middle East and Africa, DNV, Saeed Abbar, CEO of AESG in the middle, and last but not least, Faisal Rashid, Senior Director, Demand Side Management, Dubai Supreme Council of Energy. Thank you.